Laura West, and my company's called the Center for Joyful Business over at joyfulbusiness.com. I have been a business success coach internationally for 21 years, going on my 22nd year now. And I love working with conscious entrepreneurs who are putting their work out into the world and using their work as a way to both express their gifts that they've been given or they have developed, and also create an impactful transformation in the world, a positive impact in the world, and make really great money doing it. Yay! Jazz hands for that, right?
Jazz hands! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Grow Your Business Smarter, Live Your Optimal Life TV show. As always, I am here with special guests that I love, but I'm really, really excited to see how much you are also going to just fall absolutely in love with her. I'd love to introduce to you my friend and soon to be your best business bestie, Laura West. And Laura, will you share with everybody who you are and what it is that you are doing in the world?
What a great fun introduction. I just love playing with you, Davia. It's always so much fun. I'm Laura West. My company is the Center for Joyful Business over at joyfulbusiness.com. And I've been a creative mindset and business success coach for about almost 22 years now.
And so basically, since you were born.
Right. I was just like a wee grasshopper. Yeah, whatever. And I know I had a corporate career before that, and so I got good genes from my mom and good Photoshop on the Zoom, good filter on the Zoom. But I love what I do. I work with conscious business owners, helping them grow their business in a way that it feels really good. It's authentic. It's real. You do unto others as you want to have done to yourself, right? It's like, that's how you want to market. And I have a real creative approach. So I kind of throw a lot of the traditional ideas out the window. Of course, we bring in strategy and structure where we need to, but there's a whole different way to approach business. And so these are the conversations I love having with you.
Absolutely. One of the beautiful things that I love about having conversation with you, Laura, is that what this show is about, yes, we're running our businesses, but why can't we have fun too? And why can't it be like your business name suggests? Why can't it be joyful? And why can't we, while we're running our businesses and supporting the people that we've been sent here to support, why can't we also be living our optimal life? So it always feels, whenever you come on the show, like it's so synergistic, we're so aligned, and I'm always so excited to share you with our audience. I want to say that today I am really engaged on this topic. Like, I am excited. I've been posting on social media like, oh, I'm so excited about what we're going to be talking about today. And probably I always post that, but I've got to tell you, like, heartfelt, really, really excited, because we're talking about something that I feel like for the female entrepreneur and for a few of our entrepreneurs that might be also identifying as male, there is this idea that, we need to keep giving, and we give and we give and we give. And yes, giving is amazing. And I love so much to give, and it gives me so much joy and so much pleasure. But at what point does giving become overgiving? And at what point does that overgiving actually start to block our abundance? So we're going to talk about what is this whole idea of what is giving, what is overgiving. We're going to be talking about how to get into the receiving mode. We're going to be talking about how just in our lives, but also in our businesses, we can increase our abundance by getting into that receiving mode. This is going to be such a really, really juicy conversation. And then, of course, as always, I have pulled a card for us, and it'll be interesting to see, Laura, what your thoughts are on the card that I've pulled, because I'm not sure how it fits yet into the conversation that we're gonna
Oh, I
have, but
love pulling cards. I pull them every day too.
I know. And I'm pretty sure that like by the end of our conversation, I'll figure out why we pulled this card, but just yet I haven't figured it out yet. So Laura, before we dive into all of this goodness that we're going to talk about, you're back by popular demand. Our audience has said, oh my goodness, we love Laura. Can you bring her back? So we brought you back. And for those of our watchers or viewers or listeners who are meeting with you for the very first time, can you share with them just like a really, really sneak preview about how you got to where you are? Because a lot of people don't understand your corporate journey. They don't know. They know you've been
Right.
an amazing abundance coach for over 20 years, but they don't know how you got to doing the thing that you do.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Glad to. It's, I started out in business in college and went into advertising, ended up in the shopping center business. So I was, worked my way up and had a corporate position in Chicago. I was a regional VP of about 10 shopping centers along the East Coast, and gradually, kept growing and ended up in Atlanta with a company where I was VP of marketing for about 50 shopping centers around the country. And I also created corporate programs that I would roll out to these 50 shopping centers and help them increase their sales and things like that. So, loved my job. It was great. We did $1 million grand openings, Santa Claus arrival parades, created sponsorships with companies like Southwest Airlines and Cotton Incorporated. So, got that really good, strategic, practical piece. But in the 90s, in the shopping center industry, everything started shifting. And we actually went through 5 buyouts and mergers in 6 years. And it was a real impetus for me and people around me. I Everybody was stressed, like stressed all the time, and I lost my passion. Couldn't, it's hard to be a marketing person if you're, come up with creative ideas and have the confidence to move forward with them if you're feeling burned out. And that's probably very related to what we're going to talk about today.
Mhm.
And so I hired a career coach, to help me figure out what it is I wanted to do. And then naturally realized I loved coaching in general. And then decided to leave corporate and take the plunge and started my own business as a coach. And so that's kind of how I got here. But and some of the roots, like for joyful business, were because I went through that really intense time. I mean, I remember one time my husband and I at the time, we were brushing our teeth and get ready to go to work, and he worked for a bank. And I said, okay, well, have fun on your merger today. And he's like, okay, have fun on your merger today. I was like, oh. But a lot of that was an impetus for like I kept getting curious. I'm like, there has to be a different way to be in business, because how you show up and how you feel really seem to matter. And then I found this study. Once I started my business, I found this study by Barbara Fredrickson. And I really give her kudos for being the one who inspired my name, Joyful Business, because she did a study at work and she really put the research behind um, something that we know intuitively, but sometimes we want to push it away when it comes to work. But you know what? When you feel good at work, when you're happy to show up at work, we feel more confident, right? We're more creative. We're more innovative and likely to take risks. The ideas come to us. We're more loyal, so we'll stick it out. It's like we know these things intuitively. When you feel good, you do good, right? The ideas come and you take action. And so to me, it's so common sense, and yet we still have to be open to that. Yeah, that it really makes a difference and it really does matter.
How you feel at work really, really does matter. That's so, so important. And it means so much to me because, like I said, you're talking about joyful business. We're talking about grow your business smarter, live your optimal life, and putting all of that together as one big, beautiful life,
Yeah.
basically. So it's just basically the same thing, basically the very, very same thing.
Yeah, it is. And to me, that optimal, like joy is kind of like the secret ingredient,
Mhm.
to have that optimal life, or what I call, a flourishing business, a flourishing life. Um, I just believe that we were designed to flourish, that we have everything in us to go out and be creative and be happy and create things, and like even like a business. But there's something that happens when we get into business that all of a sudden we think things have to be hard, we have to struggle. And I think in particular, as you were saying, for women, it's like we have to give in order, like that's our role in the world, is to be these big giant givers, but to the point where, it has a negative impact on us.
So I wanna really dial down and dig deeply into this idea of overgiving. And
Mm-hmm.
I would love for you, Laura, to give us give us an idea of what are we talking about when we talk about overgiving versus giving? Because I have to tell you, giving is such a joyful experience for me. You know,
So obvious,
it,
yes.
it it really, really does. I feel it right here when I give. It is such a joyful experience for me. And I'm sure so many of our viewers are going to be able to identify with that. So what's the difference between just being a natural giver and enjoying that as opposed to overgiving?
Hmm. Well, I do believe that the more you can be in that generosity of spirit, and when you're giving from that generosity of spirit, when it just, like you just love to help other people, and you can't not do it sometimes, when you're a natural giver. And it feels good, right? And there's a flow that happens, right? There's an energy that happens that, to me, it's an infinity loop. You give, and then you get back, and it feels really good, right? But there's a tipping point, right? There's a tipping point that sometimes we don't pay attention to, and the tipping point starts coming in when we don't have any boundaries around that giving, and that we just give and give and give, and then all of a sudden we start feeling depleted or irritable or even resentful. And then it seems so contrary to our natural giving heart, our generosity of spirit, and then we don't pay attention to it. So to me, it's that tipping point and noticing, okay, when are you giving too much, where it's tipping into that, it's crossing over boundaries, because to me, a good, healthy, um, abundance cycle is, there's a giving and a receiving that happens. And sometimes the receiving is, you give out, you give your work and you receive money. Sometimes you're giving your work, you receive a testimonial, right? And sometimes you just give and you see somebody's absolute joy or clarity or aha, right? But then there's a point where there's that tipping point, and you have to learn to recognize the signs. For me, irritability is what comes up. I just get really, like, I have a short patience fuse, um, and it takes me a while to recognize it, but it's like when I start realizing, like, finally I'll say, why am I so irritable with everybody? That means it's me, right? When it's like
Mhm,
it can't just be
mhm.
one person. That's my signal. So you got to recognize what your signals are. If you're constantly feeling tired, if you're feeling irritable, overwhelmed, frustrated, those are some really impatient. Those are really good signs that you're over giving, and it's time to look at that.
So let me make sure that I've gotten this right. Step one to really getting into that receiving mode is to determine, are we actually overgiving and looking for the signs? And you're saying that for you, it shows up as irritability. I have a feeling, Laura, and we've been having some conversations
Mm-hmm.
recently, so this might spark something for you. But I have a feeling that for me, it shows up as tiredness.
Right.
I have a feeling for me, it might also show up as maybe a little bit of resentment too, like
Yeah.
a little bitterness
Right.
there. It and people might be able to relate to that. So you're saying step one is to look for the signs. Okay,
Yeah.
so we've
I mean,
identified the
step one
signs.
is like identifying that generosity of spirit. I think step one is noticing where do you give, and just increasing your awareness of your giving. Because I think sometimes, even the way we stepped right into, oh, let's look for the symptoms, the signs of your giving, what it looks like for you. Because for everybody, it's different. Some people they give free content, or they do free coaching, or they coach anybody who comes into their circle and gives them, can't help but consult or coach. For some people, they're giving time, some people are giving money, um, or you're giving empathy. There's lots of ways that shows up. And so you want to look at, okay, where are the areas where I'm giving, and then noticing where the tipping point is. You might be giving a lot at home, um, and so then you start, once you notice, like, all right, here's how I love to give, then you start noticing those symptoms. I think step 2 is noticing your symptoms for what are your signals for overgiving. So I love that. Yeah. And that resentment, to me, the resentment shows up when you don't give voice, right? When you don't give voice to, all right, what's causing the tiredness? What's causing the irritability? And there's a story that runs underneath of like, I have to give in order, I have to keep giving so much in order either to be loved, to be valued, to get clients, to have your husband love you, to or to have everything in control so it goes right. I think that's a really big one for a lot of women, that we think we have to control everything. And so we're going to give, and the giving actually doesn't come from that generosity of spirit as much as it comes from, I need to control everything so that it goes right. It's like that.
So it's interesting that you mentioned this, like where is this overgiving coming from? And I love that you bring this up, because it just so happens that this morning, when I was listening to my meditation, just randomly, I swear to you, I can't make this stuff up, it just happens. It was talking a bit about overgiving and how it might be coming from a place of ego, or it might be coming from a place of unhealed wounds. So it's really interesting that you're mentioning that people might be overgivers because they're looking for love, maybe in all the wrong
Yes, right,
places.
right. I've done a lot of work, and the work I do with my clients, I would say the vast majority is around mindset and knowing how you show up in the world and understanding what your stories are that run you, so that you can either use that story or pick a new story. And so often, so often for women in particular, we were kind of trained, when we were young, that's how we got our value. Our value was because we give, we learn how to set the table right, or make it pretty, and we learn how to cook something to be able to give a beautiful dinner to our families. And that works. But then when we overcompensate, like the only way to be loved or be valued or be seen, heard, acknowledged is through giving, then it starts getting in the way of having, when you're a business owner, it starts getting in the way, because then you're giving too much, and then people don't really understand how to hire you. It actually starts backfiring because they don't see the value, other than they love to be around you because you're so generous. But then the over generosity ends up blocking having financial abundance, right? Being able to charge, because then there's a place where because you're giving so much, then all of a sudden you're not willing to charge for it, right?
So say a little bit more about that, because I think this is really the nitty gritty of where it starts to be a problem in business. So yes, we have, as women, I feel like we're naturally givers, we're naturally nurturers, where our society has suggested, and we have taken in that programming of giving and supporting, and it feels good, it's great, so it does give us that dopamine hit, hashtag physiology, right? But we're in business now. How do what's really happening here? How are we able to go from being nurturing, being loving, having that fine generosity of spirit, to actually being able to offer in our businesses and accept remuneration?
Yeah, yeah. Um, it goes back to that first step we were talking about. Is really, so even taking your business specifically and look at where are you giving, so that you can get really clear about, you know, what is your giving plan? What is your generosity plan? Your generosity of spirit plan? And like doing this TV show, you don't charge for it, right? This is a generosity. This is coming from love of wanting to help these entrepreneurs, right? And then start looking at where are the other ways, a podcast, a TV show, you write a newsletter, um, you might do free consultations, you might talk to people at networking events, do virtual coffees where you're helping people. And so start looking at all the different ways that you actually are being really generous right now, and then start looking at, okay, where is it too much? Where is it? Sometimes you can flood it with so much generosity that it's where does it come from, right? If you're being generous and it's nice and clean, that's one thing, but it's like when you just keep giving and giving and giving, then it actually starts confusing people, and they don't know when to hire you because they're like, well, I'll just get on the next TV show or podcast or one of the million things that this person offers, because why do I need to pay for it? Right. And something I've had to learn, I've had to learn that myself um, is that paying for it is asking people, it's like doing people a favor. It is another way of being generous, of saying, you know what, you've got a little taste and now you want more, and we're going to go deeper, and you're going to have, did you get inspired from our conversation, or you got a little bit of clarity? Imagine what's possible when we can work together and really go deep. And then you want to charge somebody for it because they'll show up. I mean, we all know that people aren't as committed to things when they go for free. It's kind of like candy, right? Versus come in and get the really well balanced, healthy meal.
So I love that you bring this up as well, because we've talked about in the past and in previous episodes where you've appeared here on our show, and we've talked about how when we are actually marketing our businesses and when we're providing these products, we're actually doing something that is of value, something that
Yes.
is in service of other people. So actually, I just want to put a hat on the hat of you saying that in actually charging for the service that you provide, that you are actually in service of the other. Can you just say a little bit more about how that exchange works?
Yeah. Well, when you create a program or you're coaching or whatever your offer is, then you're able to take people through a process, through your signature process, through your work. You're able to look at their particular situation, give them the support that they need that's more specific to them, rather than if it's just they're going to learn through your TV shows. I love podcasts and TV shows, and I take classes, and I do all those things that are free, but there's nothing like going from a free class into the actual whole program, you know, and you get so much more, that it actually, to me, the generosity of spirit, you can do so much more when you're offering a program or one-on-one consultation, or whatever it might be. There's so much more that you can do for that person, rather than just the smaller drive-by hits. And so it actually will help them become more successful, whatever it is that you are helping them with. If it's, losing weight or shifting their mindset or marketing or whatever, but it's like you can do so much more for them when you are able to work with them one on one, or a group or a program or a product.
I know for me, when I have been taking part probably in like free challenges or free things that are offered, the impetus for me to stick with it or to do all the steps or to
Right. Stay with it.
really
Yeah.
be held accountable, it's not always there. It
Right.
really, really isn't. And we've had this conversation before, Laura, where I've told you, like, even in the lower price group settings, I haven't really found that those sort of programs have been beneficial for me personally. But when I get into that one-on-one setting with a coach, that's where I see the real shifts. That's where I see the real transformation.
Yeah.
You
Well, I think
touched
it's
a little bit
also,
on.
with that, it's also knowing yourself, right? Where are you
Mhm.
at in your journey, and what kind of support do you need? So sometimes you need the support. If I just want a little inspiration, or watch the TV show, watch the podcast, or do the free
Mhm.
challenge, and you just needed that little bit of, inspiration, or a little bit of, um, little glimpse of strategy. But then it's noticing and realizing, okay, here's what I really need. And so I know the conversation we were having the other day was, there's times where you really want that one-on-one private coaching, help me figure out my situation and how do I expand to the next level. And sometimes you need the group. Sometimes you want the community, and being in that community energy is what's going to also, plus the strategy is also going to help you. So, expand to the next level. So I really, to me, it's why it's so important to journal, to reflect, to have time to, um, meditate, and to get really clear about, okay, what do you need right now? What kind of support do you need that's really going to help you move to the next level? And that is part of the abundance flow, is recognizing the type of support that you need so that you can give that to yourself. Right? Talk about that generosity of spirit. We always think of generosity as giving to somebody else, but it's like generosity of spirit starts inside.
Mhm.
And being really generous with your words, with the types of support you give yourself. Yeah.
I love the idea of being generous with the support that you give yourself, because I have to tell you that for so many of us, the things that we do to ourselves and the ways that we
Mm,
treat ourselves and the ways that we deprive ourselves, we would never treat another human being,
right.
never
Right.
treat another
Never.
being in this
We would never
way.
say the things that we say to ourselves, or have the unrealistic expectations that we have of ourselves. We would never do that to somebody else.
We really wouldn't. So let me see if I can get this in a very succinct way, because I've been taking notes while you've been talking. You're saying that one of the first steps that we need to take is we need to have some awareness around where are we giving. And we figured out that generosity of spirit is fine, but when we're overgiving, that there's some signs that we're at that tipping point, and some of those signs can be resentment, irritability, tiredness, things like that. So look for the signs. That was the second note that I made. And
Mm,
then you mentioned understanding, why are you giving so much? Is it really coming from this place of, you know, deep wanting to give, or is it something else? Is it something that's been indoctrinated in us? Is it more from an ego-based perspective? Is it trying to get love from all the wrong places? Where are we coming for that? And then determining what kind of support that you need. So any other suggestions that you have for us for going from being in this overgiving space to being leaning more towards this receiving mode where we can actually achieve greater abundance?
mm. Well, I think after we go through those steps, then we start moving into, um, like we've created the awareness, and then we're looking at the signals, and then we're saying, okay, I need to do things differently. And so that next place is being willing to receive, right? Being willing to receive, because there's an infinity loop that happens with giving and receiving. And you can't just give and not receive, be willing to receive. And there's a direct correlation between how much you're willing to receive and how much abundance will be around you. And so sometimes we don't even realize how we block receiving. We just block receiving. Somebody gives us a compliment. It's a really common one. And we're like, oh, yeah, yeah. And we just move on, right? We don't take a moment to say, thank you for saying that. I really appreciate it. Um, I heard you at the beginning, one of the compliments you said is, you had me back on the show because I'm so well received. And I remember just kind of sinking into that for a moment and just letting that like sort of permeate my cells and be like, what a beautiful compliment. And okay, I really appreciate my impact. Not from an ego place, but from a just really owning my own brilliance, right? And that's what we're all looking at, is like, how do you truly be open so that you can be open to receive, whether it's a compliment or somebody's bringing you unexpected. I had somebody the other day who texted me in my building, and they were like, hey, are you down at the marina? Because I bought too many grapes. And for a single person, a lot of those bags of grapes are so overabundant. It's like, hey, let me come share the grapes and I'll give you half my grapes. And it's like, just say yes, just say yes.
So stopping with the overgiving and being in that receiving mode. And it starts with even just the little things like accepting little gifts and being present to them. And even accepting small things like compliments can be a really good stepping stone to getting into that receiving mode. Any final ideas about how we can be more in that receiving place?
Yeah, the receiving place. There's also a piece around receiving your brilliance. So that was a piece that I was just starting to, I just want to unravel that a little bit more, that being able to receive what you're good at, what you naturally do, and that it's valuable. To me, receiving your beautiful brilliance, that combination of your expertise, your strengths, your um, values, what about, overcoming challenges in the world. That is extremely valuable. So being able to honor your own expertise is part of receiving your brilliance. And then I would say the next piece is, and it's related to receiving, is being able to receive the self care, right? Being able to receive the self care. We often think we have to go do self care, and there is a doing, but there's also being willing to be open to, you know what, I deserve a massage. I have colleagues who get a massage every single week. Um, Being willing to say, you know what, it matters when I get up and stretch. It matters when I go to, take time out of my office days, my work days to go to a yoga class, that it really makes a difference. And so being able to receive, the self care, kind of the care and feeding and nurturing for yourself is a way of opening up that abundance flow.
Awesome. Self-care and the way we talk to ourselves, the way we receive even small things, all of these things work together to help us to be in that receiving mode. Laura, there's so much more that we have to unpack on this, and I'm looking forward to the second half of this conversation. But before we go, I'd love to just share the card that I pulled for us. So on every show, I pull a card for us. Today's card is from the Sacred Rebels, and it says, listening for the truth. Truth speaks to us constantly, but not always in words. It may communicate through a feeling that is hard to put into words, but brings an inexplicable sense of peace, trust, and the knowledge that somehow everything is going to work out perfectly, even if there's little evidence of how it is all going to happen. That's our thought for today. I want to say thank you to everybody who is joining us today on the Grow Your Business Smarter, Live Your Optimal Life show. I want to say thank you to Laura for being our special guest, and ask you guys to stick around for right after the credits, and we're going to have some more really, really great conversation. Thanks, guys. See you all on the next show. Bye. Awesome. So I don't know. I was trying to figure out, Laura, like what your thoughts are on this card, listening for truth, and what you think it might be. Why you think why you think I pulled this card today? Because I wasn't too sure how it
Oh, totally fits in.
How it fits in. Truth speaks to us constantly, but not always in words. It may communicate through a feeling that is hard to put into words, but brings an inexplicable sense of peace, trust, and the knowledge that somehow everything is going to work out perfectly, even if there's little evidence of how it's all going to happen. And if you're just tuning in, if you're just joining us, our special guest today is Laura West of Joyful Business. She's been a coach for over 20 years, right, Laura? And I mean, she is, when I think of, oh, who do I need to get on the show to talk about abundance and mindset? Who do I need to come on my summit to talk about those kinds of topics? Laura is always my go-to person. She has been on our podcast many times. She's been on our TV show before too, and she's back by popular demand. So Laura, what do you think? Why do you think we pulled this card today?
Oh, I think it's so perfect. I mean, to me, everybody always gets a little bit different perspective, but for me, it's just listening for the truth is what we were talking about for receiving abundance.
Mhm.
It might not seem like the obvious, like I need to go out there and give in order, to be successful, but really looking underneath. And, we were talking about some of those signals when you're over giving that may not be in words, right? But some of the signals where your body is saying, gosh, I'm tired. Wow, I'm overwhelmed, or I'm
Mhm.
irritable, or resentful, or impatient. To me, those are our body's signals saying, hey, pay attention. There's some truth here. And I have always found that even when I finally relax and listen to the truth, there is a sense of peace. Like even if I don't like it, even if it's like, well, what do you mean I'm overwhelmed, or I'm doing too much, or giving too much, or I'm giving too much in this area, and just listening to the truth enables you then to be in a place where you can respond instead of just keep reacting unconsciously. Yeah.
I hear that. I hear that so loud and clear. Marie, I want to welcome you to the show, and I would invite you to, would you go ahead and introduce yourself, say who you are, tell us a little bit about your business so we can know who is in the room with us.
Well, first of all, thank you very much. I came a little late because I had a call, but when I saw your post on Facebook, and I, first of all, trying to find which channel one or channel two.
Channel
just,
two.
just mention it next time because I was looking for it.
Thank you for
So
that reminder. Channel
I
two.
have a tendency also forgetting myself. So then I was a little late. So I really appreciate this topic because I think it's such an important topic to reveal ourselves as women, because we have a tendency of giving. And what you said, Laura, thank you again, what you mentioned pertaining to the fact that how our body reacts is how we need to listen to the fatigue or the extra mile that you give in. And I realized that I just did a podcast no, I think 2 weeks ago. Somebody invited me on her Facebook page, and she's another coach, and she didn't know my service. So Marie Cabas, sorry, Marie Cabas from the Face Yoga Passion. So I help women to release tension, reconnect with themselves, and being able to respect their bodies. And that's huge for me, allowing them to understand that they can feel and look younger in the natural way. So we can reduce wrinkles and sagging skin the natural way with face yoga. And also allowing people to understand that we have tension. We've always worked on upper body or lower bodies, but we have all of this section here that is linked with sometimes trauma, sometimes a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, and there's a lot of blockage in a sense where that's why some people may have headaches, migraines, or eye fatigue, or grinding of the teeth, a lot of TMJ, a lot of stress here. So all of these elements, we can release tension and release some of the things that we haven't even noticed for the past many years that have been accumulated through accidents, operations, trauma, stress. So we can reduce wrinkles, sagging skin, feeling good in our skin as women, but men too. But
Men too.
that we as women have been the tendency of receiving a lot on our shoulders, that we have to be perfect everywhere, pretty everywhere. So we need to bring this balance back, but mostly love ourselves first.
I love that.
Anyways,
That's awesome. Nice to meet you, Marie.
yeah.
I've been seeing you, but it's nice to actually meet you.
Yes, that's
Thank
why
you
I've
for
been trying.
tuning in.
I've been trying to get also to you on yours also, Laura West, and it's just timing is not always the best. So I said I have so much to do, but I said I'm going to stop today. So really interesting what you mentioned, Laura, how our body also exceeds, and we have to listen to. Like this morning, I found out the mother of my sister-in-law passed. She's 94, but still, she's 94. She wasn't well, but I feel very sad today. I feel like I don't have the energy to, to go work, to walk quicker, as we say, because I find it's a history book that just closes down. Anyways, so the woman that invited me on her podcast, she was telling me that she has a lot of eye fatigue, a lot, and painful eye fatigue. And face yoga allows to work with her muscles or orbicularis oculi to release the tension, to release the redness, the dryness, some also create headaches because everything is linked together. So, and then she goes, well, I said we can discuss and meet up another day. So we didn't make an appointment. We set it up. And then we meet up and she goes, oh, I thought you're going to give me the exercises for free. I was so astonished that she said that because she herself is a coach. So she herself has different programs. But I felt even actually insulted. So, I mean, I did give her one exercise because she was telling me she was really in pain. So I did give her one exercise. But I mean, other all people, just to mention, coming from a coach, I thought that was very low. So it's interesting. I said, where did I go wrong mentioning a thing that I may offer her, my videos, my documents, and all of that. So I was listening very closely to what you were saying, Laura, how we give and we give and we give. But
there's still a place of, I hear you, and it's, and that's what we're talking a little bit about in our interview is, where is that tipping point, where you're giving too much. And there's also a piece about, there's boundaries, but there's also a piece about leadership that I think kind of works into here. And you can just see if this resonates. But there's a piece about being a leader in your life and a leader in your business and a leader in a consultation conversation, right? And making sure that, again, you're not trying to control everything, but it's like that, that we show up on those consultations as the leader. Right?
Exactly.
The person with the expertise, not saying they don't have any expertise, but you've got this certain
body. No, everybody has their own.
And all of that. And so sometimes there's things that we do ahead of time that help position us so that people have that expectation. So, so that when they come to the call, they might be, expecting that you're going to give them a little bit of information, but of course they're going to expect that you're going to make them an offer. And so in that leadership of a consultation call, I always start out at the beginning. This is what I teach my clients is, here's how the call's going to go, and really take that leadership piece where you're saying, I'm going to ask you questions, find out your vision, what's getting in the way. I'll give you a little, maybe a tip or two, something that might help right now. And if I think it's appropriate, then I'll give you a recommendation for how we can work together in the future so that we can really, and so really stepping into setting the expectations. So then they're not like, oh, I thought this was just going to be you giving me a bunch of free stuff.
I hear what you're saying, Laura, and I totally think that you're absolutely right. We have to take responsibility, I think, for how people relate to us, how people treat us. And we have to basically step into that leadership mode when it comes to how people are treating us. And we have to set the expectations really, really early on about what they're going to get from us. So if we're overgiving, and we have always been overgiving, we're the ones who have set the expectation that
Right.
everything that we are doing is for absolute free and that we have no expectation of anything back. And I love the way that you set up your conversations at the very beginning, where you say, this is how it's going to go. I am teaching you how I would like to be treated. I am going to talk to you about these things. You're going to share with me. We're going to see how you can best be supported. I might even give you for free a couple of tips, but at the end, if it's appropriate, we're going to talk about ways that you can work together in a paid way. What about though, Laura, when you've been an overgiver for a really long time and people know you as an overgiver? How do you make that transition so that people understand that that old you is not the new you?
Hmm.
Mm,
Yeah, I think that's great. It's
mm,
great question. I think there's two pieces to this. To me, there's a being answer and a doing answer. The being is there is like one of the highest vibrations on the emotional scale. There's a grouping of, the highest vibrations of emotions are like love, joy, gratitude. We've heard those, but another one is self authority, which is a really healthy sense of self. Self authority is a really healthy sense of self, not an ego driven version, but that healthy sense of your own self authority, which is, I show up in the world and I'm giving my gifts and I have really great boundaries. So part of it is some of the being work around that self authority. That's something that I had to work on, for years when I started my business is, um, because if people didn't treat you the way you thought you deserved to be treated, it's like, as you said, Davia, we're teaching them how to treat us. And then the other one is the doing piece, is that when you are shifting, um, then you say things like, I used to give this away for free. And oh my gosh, I realized how valuable this is. Like so lots of times when you just name it, people are like, oh, okay. Like, but if you try to like hide around it and be like feeling bad because you used to give it for free and then you're trying to sneak in an offer, like that never works. And so
Mhm.
just, addressing it and saying, I've had constant feedback from my clients about how much they love this work or how helpful it is. So
yeah,
now I've put it into a program. You can get it for
yeah,
$2.99, or whatever it is.
right. And it's
Yeah.
interesting what you mentioned. I don't have your first name, Dr. Davia.
Davia, yeah, that's my first name.
Oh, that's your first name. Okay.
Yep.
That's so pretty, Davia.
Thank you.
Um, that's very interesting what you're saying. And it also, I think, gives me a segue to what I realized, Laura. I wanted to ask you a quick question. When you do go into a sales call, a discovery call, I normally send people, according to what they mentioned on the contact page, or I've spoken to them on Facebook, anyways, depending on the situation. I asked them if they were interested to receive my video, which is a morning ritual, radiant ritual to wake up your face with 4 exercises in the morning. So they can see the type of exercise that I offer, who I am, the energy I'm giving, the energy of who I am, first of all, because I like to work with people with the same energy. And sometimes people have told me 2 things. The first one is, okay, I really like what you're doing. Let's continue. Others say, well, look, already I have something. So I'm just going to work on what you gave me so far with the
Mhm.
4 exercises, and I'll see later on. So lately I've been getting 50-50. One of my coach told me, don't give your radiant ritual right away. Wait. But then again, if they don't see what I offer, how are they going to go buy my VIP program?
Mhm.
It's like 50-50.
Right.
Lately, I've been getting,
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. So there's never one right answer, right?
no,
So some people are, maybe pull back some of the, information that you're giving. If that's your signature process, you may pull it back. But then there's also another way of it's not about the giving, it's about bringing them into their vision, right?
exactly.
And creating their vision of what they want that is so big that you also point out the gap. Okay, so then you point out, so you get them excited about the vision, which we all love to do, right? We pulled out the vision and we get all excited and have this really inspirational consultation or conversation. But we also have to bring them back to the gap of here's where you're at, here's what you're really wanting, what's there in the middle, what's that gap. And so really highlighting the gap, maybe highlighting what they've tried before that has worked or hasn't worked, and then saying, the 4-step wake up in the morning ritual is a great way to start this. But if you're really wanting to, get rid of those headaches and, fill in the blank, right? And you really wanting to do that, you need a all day practice or a bigger routine or like you got to pull them into that bigger vision. So then they see why and what the results would be. So then they see like, oh yeah, well, I want that, you talk highly about what the morning ritual is and how, okay, that can make a difference, but it's not going to solve everything and all their pains and issues and things like that, or desires that they're wanting.
I like that, Laura. I
That's
like
good.
that you,
Thank
because
you.
I think here's what I think. And I want to say welcome, Dr. Tanya. You can feel free to unmute and turn your camera on and join in on the conversation. And in just a minute, after I've made my very poignant statement, then I will invite you to introduce yourself. But basically, we are, it's sort of like we want to just give it all and solve the problem. We get somebody in front of us and we're so excited to be the coach that we're meant to be. And so before the actual exchange has happened, before that energetic exchange, which needs to happen in order for that infinity loop of giving and receiving to be satisfied has taken place, we jump in. So it's sort of like we get a little bit ahead of ourselves. Would you say, Laura? And so the key is to say, hey, I see that these are the challenges that you are facing. And we have this thing that can help you. And I'll give you a little taste of it here. But in order for you to get the real full benefit, what you need to do is let's have a conversation about how we can work together in an energetically appropriate way where you're giving and I am receiving and I am giving and you're receiving and we're all in balance on that.
I think the other thing is, I love that laying that out, and we get really excited, when we're really, that's one of the things about being passionate about your business, right? Which is really good. And yet we could be so passionate that we want to give them, everything in the kitchen and the kitchen sink too, right? And sometimes we're just giving too much in that consultation. There's something else I was thinking that what you were saying, but there is a place where you pull them, you call them into, and here's what I offer. And the offer, like having like a signature system or a signature methodology so that they know that it's not, oh, here's a little help here, a little help here, a little help here. And so saying, well, maybe something, I'm just making this up because I don't know your whole business, Marie, but it's oh, here's just a little piece. That's a little intro. We do things like that in my 7-step methodology, where I bring you through these different areas, and again, you want to lay that system out. And you don't have to tell them every single thing, but to let them know that you have like a system, a process, a methodology that you will go about it, even if it's 7 steps that you come to, but you're intuitively going into the steps. Still, people like to know that you have this bigger signature process or bigger, that you have a system to it. And that gives them a sense of, oh, okay, there's so much more to this than let me do a couple exercises. Because sometimes I think that when we have these healing protocols or healing businesses, or even marketing, coaching, they can just think it's, one little thing is going to solve it all. But when they realize it's part of something bigger, that instills trust and credibility and that leadership piece.
Beautiful. I love that. I want to just, before we run out of time, I wanted to ask Dr. Tanya to please just very quickly say who you are and what you do. It helps the other people watching us to know who this show is for.
Right, exactly. Well, I'm Dr. Tanya English. I'm known as the soul chiropractor. I help women who have been in grief or have ever had some grief happen in their life go from grief to grace and find treasure in tragedy. Because when we face those situations and we have support to do that, we can unload so much stuff and we can allow ourselves to have the space where healing can rush in. You know, the universe abhors a vacuum. So when you start to really clear those negative feelings, what comes in the place? Love, peace, bliss, abundance, all those things can come in. But we just have to look at the thing that we don't want to look at. And that's why I say with assistance, because you want to have some safety in doing that. And it makes a difference. It really does.
Beautiful.
That's what I do with my clients and my patients too, is help them to face the things that are supposed to be so negative and bad. You know, everybody's going to have negative feelings. It's going to happen. You're a human being. But how do you deal with negative feelings in a healthy way? There's lots of great ways to do that. And that's what I teach.
Beautiful. Thank you, Dr. Tanya. I really
You're
appreciate
welcome.
you
Thanks for
tuning
having
in.
me. Yeah.
Absolutely. So today our show is all about, and I feel, Laura, like we started talking and we have to sit and talk. So guys, I'm going to go visit Laura next week. And
Right.
I love her so much. Like, you don't even know, like my heart is so full to know that I'm going to see her in person next week. But Laura, I feel like we need to sit down and talk because this feels like a half-day workshop or maybe
I
even
know it does.
a full-day retreat. There is so much here to unpack. We're talking today about going from overgiving to actually being in that receiving mode and opening up to abundance. And Laura shared about the fact that we need to have awareness about where we are giving. We need to look for the signs or the tipping points of when is overgiving actually happening and about what the difference is between just giving from a generous spirit and what overgiving really is, and how the resentment or the tired feelings or the feelings of irritation that show up when we're in that overgiving mode. And she talked about understanding why we're giving so much. What's the place that this is coming from? Being really, as the card we pulled today talked about, really listening for the truth of what is it that is driving this giving? Is it really coming from the compassionate place? Or is it coming from my favorite one to say, looking for love in all the wrong places? Is it coming from the mentality that we've been taught as women that you need to give and give and give and nurture, and no, even though this is all wonderful, no additional information was given about the receiving piece of it. And we talked a lot about that in the very beginning part of this show. And then Laura talked about determining what sort of support you're going to need to get you past this overgiving. And I love when you talk about self-authority, Laura, and setting great boundaries and that sort of thing. So this is really, I feel like, just scratched on the surface. And I feel like it's really given us an opportunity to want to know more, Laura. It really has. So how do people connect with you?
Well, one of the easiest things you can do is you can go to my brand new website. Yay! I'm
All
super
right.
excited about. And at joyfulbusiness.com. And there is a free gift there that is called Activating Abundance.
And it's a free gift, but it's not an overgiving gift.
It's not
a free
overgiving. It's really it's actually something that will help you. So it's a guided visualization to give you the experience of the universal abundance current. The UAC is what I call it. That is everywhere all the time. We can tune in anytime. So that visualization, and then there's a 7-day journal where you can co-create and converse with the universe around abundance and guidance. So these are actually, it's not a ton of information. It's more like tools that you can use to really activate and use it for your own abundance.
Sorry, do you just repeat the website again, Laura?
Yeah, you can just go to joyfulbusiness.com
.com,
And
okay.
it's right there. You scroll down to the bottom or go to the Start Here page. It's right there in the Start Here page. Yeah.
Can I just ask a quick question? If you're offering like a free hour as a gift, sometimes because I'm getting more a lot of present events, live events. So when you're answering the questions, giving them some naturally whole hour of a free consultation, do you overgive, or do you just give 1 or 2 or 3 tools and then you invite them to continue?
Yeah, I usually I have a whole process that I do called elegant enrollment, and it's a little bit more expanded of what we were just talking about a minute ago. But I would just give them one thing, one thing to get a taste of, who you are, especially because if you already gave them that free exercise, then you could ask them, how was the exercise? You could actually debrief that. You don't have to give them something else, but you do want to paint the picture for what you could do with them. You want to spend more time on that rather than let me give you lots of things right here, right now.
Yeah.
And I don't worry about it too much, but my experience has been if you give them too much in the consultation, they will say, "Wow, that was so amazing, amazing, amazing. Let me go do that, and I'll get back to you when I've done all that stuff." That's what happens. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Guys, we could continue this conversation. I feel like we will. I'm definitely gonna have us revisit this, perhaps have a part 2, but of course we're right out of time. So I want to say thank you to everybody for showing up today, and I look forward to seeing you guys on the next show. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you very much.
Marie.
Thank you
Thank
so
Dr.
much.
Tanya. Also want to say
Have a
thank
great
you for
day,
Sol, who's
everybody.
joining with us
Thank
earlier.
you.
I'll see you